Peace and divine presence to you, family. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Whether you are invited, stumbled upon this moment, or followed a whisper in your spirit, you are not early, you are not late, you are right on time. Because the Most High is a master of divine timing. And even though life might feel as tangled and delicate as a spider's web, stretched thin in some places, glistening in others, the Spirit knows exactly how to meet you, right here. We gather today in spirit of truth, not pretense, no masks, no fluff. Just an open heart, a listening ear, and a willing soul. So we pause to invite the divine presence, the holy breath, the Roush, the living word, not to come from outside, but to rise up from within. Be with us, Most High. Fill this space, fill this moment. Rest upon the one bringing the message today. Speak through her lips, move through her heart, and let her words carry truth that meets every listener, soul to soul. And for every listener, understand the sound of this voice. May your hearts be softened, your mind be open, and your spirit be stirred, because the kingdom of God is not afar off, it is within. And let us begin.
Welcome.
Welcome, welcome. Hello again, Miss Sheba.
Hello, Mr. Kasubel. Sorry, my voice is a little gruff because it's a little earlier than we normally record.
But it's a no matter what.
No matter what contract, if we have not spoken about that before. And there's something you said in your welcome that really got me, because literally I was just listening to that, Lord, I'm available to you. And that's how I feel about these. Like, I feel like a homeless person could probably walk up to you and give you like a word, or like a child could say something to you that would make your brain, like I often believe, like a movie or something like that. So
lifts your spirit.
Yeah. And it's just something to, what were you saying yesterday about sometimes God just lets you have like a moment.
Sometimes
just so that
you may
can
have a plan for a day, right? Which I've had many times, and it just doesn't come to fruition. But the counter is that the Most High wanted you to have that day, or your spirit inside you wanted you to have that day just to have a certain thought. Yeah. Right? And, and then take it from there. Yeah. All your things.
I recently had because I like to do affirmations, and I like to do affirmations with my kids. And Michael Singer, who wrote the Untethered Soul, he says, the purpose of my day is to remove blockages and evolve spiritually. Yeah. So the purpose of your day may not be to get your chores done or go to work or have this or that happen. Maybe the purpose of your day is to remove blockages and evolve spiritually. Really? So I really like that. Awesome.
Well, we're going to go into the message today presented by Miss Sheba. As you see on the screen for the viewing audience, the title is Sonder in the Mirror. Sonder in the Mirror. And I'm going to actually pull out the dictionary term here.
You're doing the pre-discussion?
No, just to make sure at least the listening audience understands what Sonder is, because when you first presented the word to me, I had to look up a dictionary.
I heard this word from my daughter.
Interesting. Sonder, the profound feeling of realizing that everyone, including strangers passing in the street, has a life as complex as one's own, which they are constantly living despite one's personal lack of awareness of it. Sonder in the Mirror. And now we're going to look, of course, to the Bible verse.
And just to cheat for the listening audience, my husband does not believe in any other version of the Bible except the King James Version. So I don't know what version I have here. So let's see if it's a little different.
That is correct. Shout out to King James, who presented the Bible for us. Now we will present Mrs. Sheba.
So, have you ever stood in a gym surrounded by mirrors? This recently happened to me. I'm a good gym girl, so I put my things away when I use them, and I walked into the gym and I saw myself from like a million angles, because they have a room full of mirrors for the aerobic room. Have you every wall bouncing your image back at you, multiple reflections, each a little off? You catch a glimpse of yourself from one angle, then another, and wonder which one is the real me. That's where I was one morning, the music pounding, people lifting weights, all of us lost in our own reflections, and in that moment, something hit me. We live in a world of mirrors, physical, emotional, and spiritual, but very few of them tell the truth. Imagine walking to a gym, mirrors on every wall, everywhere you turn, and there you are. But here's the question, which one is real? One makes you look taller, one adds shadows, one hides flaws. You move just a little and look like someone else entirely. And I wonder, if our mirrors can distort our bodies, how much more do mirrors in our minds distort our souls? People say, I know you. But really, they only know the reflection of you they see from their angle, their experience, in their light. And the truth is, you don't even see yourself fully. In 1 Corinthians 13:12, it says, "For now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face." Even scripture reminds us our perception is limited. We see through glass. God sees through grace. You know, the funny thing about mirrors is that they don't actually show you. What you see is not your face, it's light. Light bouncing off of your skin, hitting a smooth surface, and reflecting back into your eyes at the same angle. Like I'm watching myself on this camera right now, and that's not exactly me. Your brain takes the stream of light and flips it, constructing an image that feels like you, but it's really just physics and perception having a conversation. That's mystery of reflection. It's all a translation. You're not seeing yourself directly. You're seeing your eyes and your brain agree upon it. Even the image is reversed. Your left becomes your right. The lighting, distance, and curve of the mirror all affect what you see. Scientists call it the mirror image inversion problem. Your brain is so used to seeing your face in reverse that the real version of you, as others see it, can feel foreign. So even at its most basic level, your reflection is both familiar and false. And there are so many mirrors that show these distortions in different ways. There's a full-length mirror where you see your whole body, but only your outer shell, not the heart of your spirit. There's a magnified mirror, the one that zooms in so close that every pore and blemish looks like a flaw that needs fixing. Then there's the funhouse mirror, where you see yourself multiplied infinitely, one version after another, disappearing into forever. A haunting image of how self-perception can become obsession. And then there's concave and convex mirrors. One curves inward and makes you look taller or larger. The other one curves outward and makes you appear smaller. Each reflection feels real, yet each is scientifically altered by the curve of glass, the angle of light, or the position of the viewer. So the question is, which of these mirrors are you seeing yourself? The full-length one that shows your shape but not your substance, the magnified one that picks apart your details, or maybe the funhouse mirror of self-conscious and comparison, where reality gets swallowed by distortion. Every one of them reflects something true, but none of them reflect the whole truth. Because no mirror, no glass, no lens can capture who you are in your divine design. The true reflection of you is made by light and angles. It's made by the Spirit of the Most High. There's a word I love, Sonder. This means the realization that each random passerby is living a life as vivid and complex as your own. Think about it for a second. Every person you see on the treadmill next to you, at the end of the line, in groceries, they're having dreams, fears, heartbreaks, memories just as deep as yours. But the problem is, we don't usually see them. We see reflections. We see fragments. We see ourselves reflected in them, and that reflection isn't always accurate. The realization that every person you pass by has a rich, complex, painful, and a beautiful life just as yours, that's what Sonder is. When you truly understand that, judgment turns into compassion. You stop saying, what's wrong with them? And start saying, I wonder what they've been through. Because every reflection has a story. Every glare, every silence, every reaction is an echo of something unseen. Psychologists call it the empathy gap. We often underestimate how much others feel because we can't see their internal world. When we realize this, judgment gives way to empathy because every person, every reflection has a history behind the surface. But we still make assumptions, fast, shallow, and often wrong. So I saw this movie a long time ago, so I can't tell you the whole plot, but it was a really good one. There's a strange, almost haunting scene in the movie Being John Malkovich. At one point, Malkovich enters his own mind. Everywhere he looks, everyone he sees is himself. They all saying the same thing, Malkovich, Malkovich. It's an absurd but powerful because it's what it feels like when you get trapped inside your own head. All you see is you, your egos, your flaws, your anxieties, and the longer you stare, the less real you feel. That's how we live sometimes, consumed by our own reflection, by what we think of ourselves. But that reflection is reversed, distorted. I once heard an incredible story on Radiolab about something called the true mirror. A man named John Walter discovered that every mirror we use flips our image. That means that you the you've seen every day of your life isn't what other people see. He built a special mirror using 2 mirrors set at a perfect right angle, so the reflection would appear exactly as the world sees you, unreversed. People who look into this mirror for the first time often cried because they were meeting themselves truly for the first time. One man said, "I didn't recognize that person, but somehow I knew that's me." And I wonder how many of us have ever really seen ourselves. We see the flip version, the one defined by insecurity, guilt, or pride. But God is calling us to see ourselves as he sees us. In 1 Corinthians 13, it says, "For now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Right now the mirror lies, but one day we'll see ourselves clearly as God sees us and understand who we've really been." 2 Corinthians 6:16 reminds us, "For we are the temple of the living God." When you look in a mirror, you don't just see flesh and bone. You're seeing the dwelling place of the Most High. See a creation made in his image, flawed yet redeemed, broken yet beautiful. And here's the challenge. If you can't see yourself clearly, how will you see others clearly? If you judge yourself harshly, you'll judge them the same way. If you don't believe you're worthy of grace, you won't extend it to anyone else. The way you see yourself sets the tone for how you see the world. This is where things get complicated and where most of us struggle the most, because while it's hard to see ourselves clearly, it's even harder to see others accurately. We form judgments in seconds. We make assumptions based on fragments. We decided who someone is before they've even spoken. And the truth is, we do this all day long. The concept I call anti-Sonder, the opposite of recognizing the complexity of others, is when you reduce someone to a single moment, a single action, a single impression. It's when you forget that they too are a temple full of light and shadow and joy and pain, mistakes and miracles. James 1:23-24 says, "If anyone be a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like unto a man beholding his natural face in a glass. For he beholdeth himself and goeth his way, and straightway forgetteth what manner a man he was." In other words, we look but we don't see. We glance but we don't reflect. And when we do that to others, we miss the image of God in them. Here's a powerful truth. To others is to assume the best until proven otherwise, to clean the mirror before judging the reflection. Imagine looking at someone through a dirty window. The smudges and stains distorted what you might see. You might think the person on the other side looks angry, sad, or distant, but really you're just looking through grime. That's what happens when we judge people through the lens of our own hurt, our own bias, our own limited perspective. Hebrews 13:2 warns us, "Be not forgetful to entertain strangers, for therefore some have entertained angels." You never know who you're dealing with. You never know what battle someone is fighting. You never know when God is testing your compassion through the face of a stranger. Think about it. Have you ever been misjudged for something innocent? How did it feel to not be given the benefit of the doubt? A viral video once showed a man yelling at an airport clerk. Viewers were quick to call him rude, until later footage showed he had just learned that his mother died and his flight was canceled. When the story changed, so did the judgment. Or consider a person sitting in a car outside a house, judged harshly as suspicious, only to later find out that they were waiting to deliver food to a sick relative. A man helping a woman with her stall car might be mistaken for trying to harm her. We jump to conclusions, we don't pause, we don't ask, we don't give grace. So we should have that empathy shift. Something powerful psychologists have found: when people are given more information about someone's background, their empathy increases. Think about that. The more you know, the more you care. And that's exactly what Jesus modeled. And when a woman caught in adultery was thrown before him, the crowd saw her in sin. Jesus saw her soul. Everyone else picked up stones. He bent down, drew in the dirt, a gesture of reflection. And he said, "Let him who has no sin cast the first stone." In that moment, he turned a mirror on the accusers. They looked. They saw themselves. When you put down judgment, you pick up grace. John 13:35 says, "By this all men will know that you are my disciples, that you love one another." When you understand someone's story, judgment melts into compassion. When you see beyond the surface, you become a true reflection of Christ. Here's a fact that may surprise you. Statistically, 97% of people never commit a violent crime. Violent crime rates have dropped significantly over the decades. Most humans are helpers, not harmers, yet our perception is fed by news and fear suggests the opposite. Why? Because our brains are wired to notice negative events more sharply. It's called a negative bias. Media magnifies this distortion, showing us broken mirror of humanity. The enemy distorts reflection, magnifying evil, minimizing good, but God's mirror magnifies hope, compassion, and redemption. The light shines in darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. That's John 1:5. Here's a lesson we need to learn. You can't control how others see you. They see you from their angle, but you can choose how you can see them. Before assuming, pause and ask, what don't I know about this person? Replace suspicion with curiosity. Replace labeling with listening. The temple of the Most High is within us, but it's also reflected in every person we meet. When we misjudge others, we misjudge God's image in them. Here's when it all comes together. You see yourself through distortion, others see you through limitation, but God sees you through truth. He doesn't look from one angle, he looks at the heart. 1 Samuel 16:7 says, man looks at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. When God looks at you, he sees beyond your reflection. He sees the temple, the place where his spirit dwells. And when you see yourself that way, you stop judging others too, because if you are a temple, so are they. And so put down your distorted mirror. Stop defining yourself by what you've done wrong or what others people say about you. Look instead at the mirror of God's word, the only reflection that shows who you really are. We've talked about how we see ourselves, how we see others, how God sees us. Now let's talk about how we live this out. Here are 3 practical ways to fight anti-Sonder, to resist the urge to judge, label, and dismiss others. Pause before you judge. This week, notice how you often assume something about a stranger and pause. What if I'm looking at through the wrong mirror? Before you label someone rude, lazy, suspicious, stop. Ask yourself, what don't I know about this person? Matthew 7:1-2 says, judge not, that ye not be judged. For with that judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged. Number 2, seek more information, increase your compassion. Remember, the more you know about something, the more empathy you will feel. The more you know about someone, the more empathy you will feel. When you find yourself frustrated or upset with someone, ask, what might they be going on that I can't see? Curiosity over condemnation. Choose questions over accusations. Number 3, see every person as a temple. Every person you meet reflects a piece of God's image. When you learn to see others clearly, you begin to see clearly. Matthew 25:40 says, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. When you extend grace to another person, you're extending it to Christ himself. When I look around the gym again, I realize I wasn't surrounded by strangers. I was surrounded by temples. Every person was carrying the image of God, whether they knew it or not. And I thought, if I can learn to see them clearly, maybe I'll start to see him more clearly too. So today, remember this. See yourself clearly. See others kindly. See God truthfully. Because one day we won't see through a glass darkly anymore. We'll stand face to face. And we'll finally recognize the reflection that's been there all along.
Very, very thoughtful presentation, Miss Sheba. Very thoughtful presentation. Well, now we will get to the discussion part of this presentation. The mirror is a reflection of self, right?
Yes.
You said this notion in the when you're in the gym and you're kind of looking at everybody. And I always think of when you say that, it's very like a myopic moment. You're kind of looking at yourself, but there really are other people in the gym and you're looking at them. And when you said this word Sonder, I was just thinking like, wow, people really are going through something probably more complex, or to whatever degree complexity that they're going in their life, and that's why they're in this gym. That's why they're on this sidewalk or this moment, like right now.
Yeah. I worked with somebody once, and you know how somebody says something and like sticks with you forever. And she said, like, if there was a basket and everybody put all of their problems in it, I'll still choose mine.
Wow.
Because you can't even imagine what other people have gone through, been through, or currently dealing with, that you're like, ooh, I got problems, but.
And it's interesting that complexity is really in their mind.
Yeah. But you don't know anything about them. You don't know anything about somebody, and we are so quick. I've done it a million times. Well, that guy must be like this. And that girl, I bet you she's like that. You don't know that. You don't know anything about her. I bet you she thinks she's, I bet he think he's. You don't know that at all. You don't. And I think another interesting is even somebody in your own life. You know, like a husband to wife, brother and sister, you might talk to them every day, but you do not know everything about them. You do not know everything they think, everything they go through, how they feel inside every day. They might communicate with you all day long and you still be like, who is this person? They'll do one thing out of character and you be like, I thought I knew them.
I know. I like the point when you said that, you know, what you're seeing when you see somebody else, it's not the whole truth, right? And that, of course, within my own personal work with the Most High, it's like I do see myself unfolding, right? And now when you say this, it's like, oh, I see somebody else is like working on something and they're unfolding as well.
And I mean, all it does is creates more empathy and more compassion for how you move through the world. You know what I mean? Like, okay, if you're, what I do, like sometimes somebody's in traffic and they're just driving crazy. And I say, you know, for all we know, that person could be rushing to the hospital for someone, like something just happened, or they could, like, not just because they're late for work. You know what I mean? Like, we just assume that is something more negative than, like, our natural thought is to go towards the negative. I'm not saying like be gullible, but at the same time, you can't assume that everything that's happening with somebody else is because they're in a negative state.
That's true.
You know, you don't know why someone may be behaving the way that they're behaving. You don't know their story.
But it's interesting because on Earth, you really do have to be careful, right? Because there's been instances, especially in a more youthful state, where you are gullible, right? And you are basically taking advantages for that gullibility. But that's just really like, I like how you said something about basically like there's an image, right? When you're looking in the mirror. And I was looking at the etymon of image, and it really is a copy or a likeness.
Likeness, not actually you.
Exactly.
It's the best interpretation. Like, have you seen yourself ever? Except for your hands, your body, the tips of your nose. You've never even seen your whole face.
It's funny because, you know, we've been together for quite some time. And I guess there was a time where I had my own version of kind of body dysmorphia. Like I didn't really see myself the way that most likely other people see me.
Yeah.
Right? And, you know, recently just accepting that, it's kind of like, you know, I walk differently, move differently.
I think it's like, you don't even know, like, okay, I'm like 5'3.5", right? I thought I was tall because I grew up next to somebody who was like less than 5 feet, who was short. So I thought I was tall most of my life. I was like, oh, I'm really tall, because she was so very short. Do you understand what I'm saying? So like when you say body dysmorphia, you're like, I'm not that big of a guy. Yeah, you are. But who are you comparing yourself to? Like, we don't even know what we are unless we're like looking at another person and I'm tall, I'm short, I'm smart, I'm dumb, you know? Or you could think you're really smart and you go in another environment and you're not the smartest person in the room anymore. Or you could be rich to your family and you go over and be like, oh, these people are like multimillionaires. So like, we're constantly doing that. Constantly doing that.
Yeah. It just brought to mind that Bible verse that says in Genesis 1:26, and it says, and God said us, let us make man in our image and after our likeness, and let them have dominion of the fish in the sea, of the fowl of the air, you know, all over the earth, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, sometimes, again, it's like a very like self-centered, like, oh yes, I'm in the image of the Most High, but, you know, so is you, and then so is this person over here.
Like, you're the chosen one and nobody else is the chosen one.
Over myself, though.
Well, you must be that to yourself. I think that is, you are the protagonist. You are in your own story, but somebody else is playing out their story.
They really are.
You're not the only singular one in the world playing out the story. I like that. I didn't think about that. Let us make man in our own image. Because it's like, okay, now when you say that, then you're saying like, what is the image of God? What am I supposed to be? You know what I mean? Like, what am I supposed to be reflecting? Wow.
And then also too, like, see that's the thing about the duality down here, the light and dark, truth and falsehood, good and bad, so to speak. I'm doing my own version of that, managing that. And in other people, they're managing that as well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Whatever situation, they may have like a more familial situation or something to deal with the home, the friends or work or whatever.
Or maybe a tragedy they had in their past, for all you know.
I know.
You know, some terrible things have happened to people that you don't even know about. And they're walking around this world like...
Yeah, they really do have like almost like a facade. But if you heard it, you would be like...
How are you breathing? How are you standing here right now? All of that happened to you. And then if you think about it, I mean, I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where somebody was judging you like really hard. And like, you're like, you don't even know me. You know what I mean? And if you're in a situation where you've been judged like that, and then you say, well, what feeling that kind of level of judgment, and then saying, I don't like that. It almost is like, I don't want to do that to somebody else too.
Right.
Like the way somebody didn't know diddly about you and made up a whole thing, and they don't know you at all. They're making so many assumptions.
Almost like you got to pause before you judge.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why this Bible, it really does have like very good key takeaways, you know. You know, consider not the speck that is in your brother's eye, but, you know,
that is in your own. And it's just the saying, like, address your own thing, you know,
right.
Stop putting your thing on somebody else.
Right.
And we do that. They're doing that to you. You're doing that to them. And we're just like circulating all of this thing when most of it is not as negative as you think. Most of it. There is. And I mean, if 97% of people never commit a violent crime, I'm not saying they're all good people morally and all these other things, but at the same time, it's like we are like consumed with negative media anyways, and that's what we highlight. So now we're going to think that everybody is like that.
Right.
You know, We're going to think everybody's like that because they take that 3% and they blow it up and they drill it. But I mean, one bad person can spoil a group.
One bad person can. And then, you know, I just always get back to this point of like, wow, it really is like a thought, a notion, or a series of thoughts or notion that this individual has within their mind. And then they're expressing that image in this real world. And, you know, we're all looking at, you know, either something is manufactured as like a purposeful intent or like situational. All these things happen to this person from this perspective or work or relational, and then like they're looking at their image of this is why I'm here. I have to deal with the bank. Oh my God. They
don't know that. You know, it's so interesting. I don't even see if I put it in there, but it's like how you can even have a name association. It's like my ex-boyfriend's name was Larry. Now, every time you meet a Larry, it's like...
Every time you meet a Larry, you just put that association.
Larry.
That's interesting.
This guy's not that same Larry. He is not the same guy. That Michael, that girl is not the same person, but because you have these baggages, you know, you putting that on them. You're putting that on them. That's not you haven't given them a chance to prove that to you or not, because you've already decided. When you just said that made me think, you know, maybe that's what you feel like when you find love. Like when you find love with another person, it's like the first time you feel like somebody sees you for real. Do you know what I mean? Like, and that is like, and I mean, it's going to be very egotistical, but in that moment, you want to be seen so bad that person is like, oh, they understand me. They see me. They don't really see all the things that other people see or judge you for. It's like, I see you. And that, I think that reflection, you just fall into that because that's such a beautiful moment in your life to be seen like that.
It's very true thing because they do say God is love, right? And I'm sure the Most High is seeing the situation and looking and saying, oh man, I could do this, this or that, right? If they would ask, in a sense, that's kind of my perspective. And when you do, or if you do get that opportunity to be loved.
That feeling is like you're light. You said something in another episode we have, and you're talking about light, and you're talking about how Moses, when he came down from the mountain, the presence of God showed on his face. You know what I mean? And it's like when you have that moment of support, it's like that glows you up. You know what I mean? Like, when you're saying that, I also was thinking of like, when you see those races and that this person falls and somebody goes back and picks them up. And it's like that moment that they don't see somebody failing. It's like, I'm going to help you. And that kind of like, instead of that judgment, you have somebody really like rallying for you. And that is so beautiful. But it's like, we don't.
And I guess, that's kind of like, that's the bonds of affection.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, somebody could just see
you,
a window of what you're going through. And then,
like you said, it's like in that moment, those people saw you through that tiny window and then they saw you. And then because nobody's ever going to really know you. You know what I mean? You are the one who knows yourself the most, and it's like, there's not going to be no Freaky Friday, which I really wish, to switch us into each other's bodies. I can't believe you didn't say anything about the John Malkovich one.
I just remember that. I know it
you remember that
long
scene?
Time ago. I do remember that scene, and I don't want to get off.
Like even the menu, if you saw, even the menu, Malkovich. It said Malkovich. And then even when they started speaking, they're like, Malkovich. I forgot about that. He basically saw how self-centered he was, maybe. He just saw maybe that's how we all are. He just saw the whole world through his own view. He is in every person was him.
It's true. Wow. Sonder in the mirror.
Sonder in the mirror.
Very interesting, very interesting. Well, thank you again for stirring this thought.
I feel like this thought could go on because I was thinking about even the Good Samaritan and all kinds of other stories of, judgment. And there's a lot of prejudice and a lot of, stereotypes and negativities that we all carry with us, that are shaped by our own experiences in the world. And we just have to remember that others are having the complexity of an experience as you are having. Other people's lives are just as complex.
And it does really just give pause, I mean, this is a good thought because it really does make me kind of like consider that again, as I go out in the world and I see different people, not necessarily put so much judgment.
Yeah.
Or, falsehoods on people. Because I really don't know. I really don't
know.
You
don't know. Don't even, like I said, even people in your own family, your own cohort, you do not know their story. You do not know. And even if you know pieces of it, you don't understand. There's no way that you can. So you might as well extend some compassion and empathy. And maybe when it's your turn,
it's coming.
Somebody will give some of that back to you, God willing.
All right. As we prepare to close, let us welcome the Most High, not in a temple made by hands, but in the sanctuary of the heart and the stillness of the mind. For as Yeshua declared, the kingdom of God cometh not with observation, for behold, the kingdom of God is within you. So now when you pray, not for show, not in noise, but in the quiet of your being, enter into your closet, as it is written, and thy Father above, which seeth in secret, shall reward thee openly. So now, let us each enter that inner room, that secret place where the Most High waits for no performance, only presence. Let us take this moments, 1 to 2 minutes, to breathe deeply, to be still, and to listen for the whisper of the Spirit within. May the presence of Yeshua abide in your heart. May the kingdom continue to unfold in you, and may your secret place always remain sacred. Go in peace, being a bright sonder for the day. Amen.
Ashe.
And Islam.